Hello, good morning. Welcome to this Dawn Buster second of the day taste challenge. Well, it really is dawn now. I was hoping the light would come into play with the first one, but it didn't really. So here we are. This is going for Wednesday. We are on January 11th. This is going to count. This is going to count for the 12th. Let me check something on my notes. Aged, not age. Here is Old Overholt. I bought this at, well, I was going to buy at Walmart, but they were out of it. So my friend David got this at Elio's Wine Warehouse. He paid $18, but I mean, if I'd have bought it at Walmart when I had my chance, it had only been $16. So I lost $2 on this deal. Introduced in 1810, registered U.S. Patent Office. This image of this man, Abraham Overholt, is registered by the United States Patent Office. You cannot use it without permission. But they're showing keystones because it originated in Pennsylvania, the Keystone State. So the original Old Overholt was a Pennsylvania rye whiskey, but it was bought out by Beam, the Beam company, now Beam-Suntory, and the distillery has been abandoned. Somebody has a video on YouTube of some young people trespassing on the old distillery grounds, which I think was shut down in the 1980s. It looked pretty dangerous. It's like, man, you could fall in a hole. Anyway, this one is aged 3 years, chill filtered. It's only 40% alcohol, which is kind of low for a rye. It says www.theoldswhiskey.com. www.theoldswhiskies.com. But that website is defunct. It used to show Old Overholt, Old Crow, and Old Granddad, bonded and regular. Old Crow and Old Crow Reserve. But Beam, it's like Beam-Suntory, ever since the Japanese buyout, they don't want to focus on a lot of their brands. If it's not a prominent brand, they just pretend they don't make it. I don't understand that point. Sazerac does the same thing. I don't understand that kind of thinking, because it can't be that expensive to run websites for these brands. And you seem like you would want people to know about the products, but I don't control it. You could tell this is a Beam bottle. Got the broad shoulders, just like a bottle of Old Granddad or Old Crow. See, same type bottle as Old Granddad and Old Crow. Says Frankfort and Clermont, Kentucky. That's the two Beam distilleries, so you know it's from Frankfort and Clermont. That's anytime you see Frankfort and Clermont, Kentucky, that means the Jim Beam distillery. All right, so this will run you about $16 at Walmart. Now I don't know how much you'll pay otherwise, but when they have it in stock at Walmart here, I could get it for $16. Now here's Hunter Rye, which I've never seen in Louisiana ever. Except, oh wait, what am I saying? Except for New Orleans, and that was at one store, Broadway Liquor. And they only have the little 200 milliliter bottles, and they would charge an exorbitant price. So I said, never mind. I told the guy, never mind. I bought two bottles once when he had a decent little deal. But I bought this at so I bought that at Total Wine, right off, not Total Wine, Elio's Wine Warehouse, right off of US Highway 90 in New Orleans, next, close to Tulane University. This bought at Liquor Warehouse in Texas, the Liquor Warehouse, Arlington, Texas. So produced by Sazerac Canada, but it's bottled in Kentucky at Buffalo Trace Distillery. And it says Canadian Hunter on the bullet, the bottom of the bullet. Look, Hunter Rye has lost every taste challenge so far, and I think it'll continue that trend today. Does that mean it's a bad product and you shouldn't buy it? No. It's just meaning that it's not as good as all the other ones I've got. Are there worse rye whiskey? I don't know. I've never seen a rye whiskey for $12, $11.99. They're usually more expensive, so maybe this is the cheapest one. Old Overholt's not exactly an expensive rye. It's more of a budget rye whiskey, $15. So I'm sorry, $16. So we're not putting out a lot of money. I like that it's got the brown bottle, which protects the whiskey from light damage. This one is clear. So then you could have that risk. Not a great risk, but it's there. Now, oops. So remember, this counts for Wednesday. No taste challenge on Wednesday. And then when rye's over with, when rye ends, we go into bourbon. And I've got a bourbon from Brooklyn, New York City, New York. Now, when you think of bourbon, do you think of Brooklyn? No, you don't. You think of Kentucky. Do you think of New Orleans? No, you don't. But they make bourbon in Louisiana and they make bourbon in New York. They make bourbon in Indiana, a lot of bourbon in Indiana, in Missouri. But the main state that people are thinking of is Kentucky. I'd like to have a list. I don't have any such list. I'd like to see a list of every state in which bourbon is produced for commercial use. I mean, obviously, I don't mean where it's bottled, because a lot of these places bottle it, but they bring it in from somewhere else. I don't mean where they produce it for home drinking. I'm talking about for on the market, officially licensed, products. There we go. So I think the old Overholt was a little darker from my recollection, but it's not going to be enough to where if I glance, it'll make a difference. So here we go. Sazerac's Hunter Rye, Beam-Suntory's Old Overholt. Both products bought out. Except that Canadian Hunter was never a small production company that got bought out by the big boys. It was a big company started by the big boys. Seagram started Canadian Hunter in 1984 and simply sold it off to a smaller liquor company called Sazerac in 1989. Of course, Sazerac's still around. Seagram's went out of business 22 years ago. You say, no, they didn't go out of business. I just saw Seagram's Escapes drinks. I just saw Seagram's Gin. Those are brands which still exist because when Seagram's closed down, all their assets were sold off to mainly Diageo and Pernod Ricard of France. Diageo of London, England, Pernod Ricard of France. But the facilities still exist. Crown Royal Distillery is still there. It's just owned by Diageo. White Rock Distilling in Lewiston, Maine, still there. It's owned by Sazerac. The Seagram's Distillery in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, is still there. It's one of the biggest distilleries in the world. It's owned by Midwest Grain Products, MGP, and so forth. Now, I'm getting a mild rye spiciness. Now, some people hate rye because of that minty peppermint spiciness. They say, I can't stand peppermint. I don't like spiciness. I don't like mint. I hate it. Fair enough. I always say I hate wheat beer. Wheat beer. That's too strong of a word. I don't actually hate wheat beer, but I never want to drink it. You know what I'm saying? Like I could drink it and it's okay. I don't sit there and say, oh, every sip saying, I hate this. I hate this. But I don't like it. Doesn't mean they don't have fabulous wheat beers in the world. They have fabulous wheat beers. So if you don't like rye whiskey, don't feel bad. You don't like it. It used to be really popular. Rye whiskey was 100 years ago was super popular. Then it faded in face of bourbon. Bourbon's much more popular today. Now, sometimes people ask me questions like, what is better? They'll ask me, what's better, bourbon or rye? Well, there's no way you can answer a question like that. There is no definitive answer. It's if you prefer bourbon, the corn grits flavor and all that, or rye. So it's like asking somebody what's better, a hamburger or fried chicken. There's no better. It's what you prefer to eat. Once again, a lot of rye spice, but there's a little mustiness to it. And I've said this before, that Jim Beam products seem to have this mustiness. It's like an old attic, old dust and wood. I don't know how to explain it, but it smells like that. It's an old company, 1795, so maybe a lot of their stuff is old. It's like the old Dixie Brewing Company in New Orleans. That place smelled old and it looked old, and it was old. All the equipment was from 1907. So when I went on a tour there in 2005, a month before Katrina hit, the guy was telling me, see all this equipment? He says, if it breaks, we can't just order the part to replace it. We have to have the part built. He said, because you can't say, well, give me an order of this piston from 1907. He said, it doesn't exist. So you have to have it all machine shop made. He says, very expensive. But that never came back after Hurricane Katrina in 2005. So I was lucky. I got to tour it on a limited day. I did tour. He showed me around. Got to look at the hospitality room before Katrina hit. 1 month. And to drive by there after, it was just terrible, a nightmare, horrible. Now this one might have that caramel candy undercurrent, but I don't know. I think it might. So on aroma, I'm not sure. Appearance, they both look nice. No winner or loser there. On aroma, they both smell fine, so there's really no winner or losers there. And remember the price point, $16 for the old Overholt, 80 proof now. The current old Overholt is 86 proof, but you probably still be able to find the 80. And the Hunter Rye is $12. So 16 versus 12, $4 difference. Is it going to be $4 better? Probably. Craft beer tastic. I think bourbon is better because of all the government requirements involved. Makes it difficult to produce a bad bourbon. That's true. You're right. But on the other hand, rye whiskey is very heavily regulated as well. It's just that people don't know about the regulations because they don't drink it much and they don't research it much. So then they don't know much about it. But it's strict also, in fact. Your best bet on bourbon for quality control and strict regulations is probably what? Bottled and bond bourbon, which is all 100 proof. Extremely strict. So are you going to ever find a bad bottled and bond bourbon? I would say, no, that's impossible. Are you going to ever find a bad bourbon? No, I don't believe you will, Craft Beer Tastic. I think you're right. You may find some that aren't as good as others, common sense. But to find a bad one, it's like buying a car these days, a new car for the last 30 years. You know, most of them, you buy them and you follow the owner's guide and the maintenance manual. They'll go 10 years without any kind of real trouble. I know people that have had trouble, but they tear their cars up. You know, they do insane things, you know, crazy things that damage the vehicle. And then they'll say, well, the transmission screwed up. Well, yeah, well, because you broke it. You know, you did certain things that damaged the vehicle. Like the steering on my Dodge Avenger. Yeah, well, it got damaged because I damaged it with that big dip in the road. So, I mean, but otherwise, that Dodge Avenger never gave trouble. I just drove it and it always ran. You know what I'm saying? I turned it on. Now, in 1975, okay, that's when things were very, you could buy a brand new car, maybe in a week, you start having trouble with it. Or in a year, it'd be rusting out by the opera windows in the back. And you're like, wow, this car's a year old. Why is it rusting? In 85, it was still bad, but better. Bad, but by 95, a lot of that had been alleviated. You know, you had a much better quality control. Of course, my grandfather, he always bought Chevrolets, and he never had trouble with them. But he bought Buicks and starting in the 90s. But I remember he always drove that Chevrolet. It was like the standard one in the 70s. He had like a red maroon with a black vinyl top, 2-door. He was a medical doctor. He was a surgeon at Baptist Hospital and East Jefferson Hospital. But he wasn't like ostentatious. Like he didn't drive a doctor's car. And what was that? It wasn't an Impala. Maybe it was 2-door. I know it wasn't a Malibu. Pretty sure it wasn't. Got me confused now. But I mean, he always liked that car. Then he bought another one in the 80s. And then he bought that 91 Buick Roadmaster. He loved that Roadmaster until he wrecked it. Just demolished it. He didn't get hurt too bad. He'd always fall asleep driving. Bad idea when you're driving. This is definitely the old Overholt on Aroma. It's got to be. It's got to be. I'm going to call it. I'm going to say this is old Overholt. It is. Ha, 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 ha. Why do I say that? It had a more intense charred oak note, like saturated charcoal barrel. Now let's go with the taste for what that's worth. There's pepperiness. There's mintiness like you get from rye. But there's that Sazerac Canadian whiskey undercurrent, the caramel candy, or Johnny LA would call it rum extract. I'm sorry, almond extract. It says Canadian whiskey, a blend. All right, doesn't say straight rye whiskey like the Hunter. So really what it is, it's Canadian Hunter jacked up with rye and then jacked up to 90 proof. And it costs $3 more. I saw Canadian Hunter Saturday, $8.99. Is Canadian Hunter worth $8.99? Oh, yes, definitely. Is it a fabulous product? What do you think? It's $8.99. You know, come on. If it was fabulous, it'd be $89.99, not $8.99. But is it okay? It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And they got ones cheaper than that. That's not Sazerac's cheap ones. The cheap ones are Canadian Limited and Rich and Rare. I saw for $7.89 at Walmart. $7.89 for Rich and Rare. I said, "Oh, look at you, bless your heart. You're so cheap." But it's not bad though. I wouldn't bring it to a dinner party. Let's see. Moving. Oh, I thought you were saying moving on. Morning, Ron. Any thought to doing another food pairing review? Church's Chicken or Burger King? Well, Church's Chicken was ransacked by Hurricane Ida, and they haven't done anything to it since August 29th. It's just abandoned. It's like Church's is abandoned. Burger King came back faster than anybody. I was at Burger King yesterday. I had the rodeo burger for $1. That's a pretty good deal for $1. I said, boy, this rodeo burger makes me want to ride a bull. I like it. And then I had the value onion rings. And can't say it filled me up, but because it didn't. But I mean, I felt it was fine, for lunch, a little small lunch. Yes, Joe Hill, I was thinking about doing a video early in the morning with a Popeyes breakfast and a beer. Popeyes big platter breakfast. So let's see about that. I think that will happen. Won't be live, but it'll be recorded. It's been too long, and people have been asking about those. People have been asking. I should do something with some Bailey's Hogshead cheese. I got Hogshead cheese. I just ate some, so I'm not going to do more today. Maybe beer with tomato soup, beer with vegetable soup, something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yes, people are asking, so. This stuff is so much stronger and pronounced and more luxurious. So does $4 make a difference? Oh, yes. Would you ever confuse Old Overholt with Canadian Hunter Rye? Impossible. Impossible. Does Hunter Rye have any off flavors or nasty aspects or, offensive things? No, 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 no. Is it kind of bland? When you drink it on its own, it's not bland. If you just buy a bottle of Canadian Hunter, it's the first rye you ever had, and you try it, you say, oh, I noticed these, and you might name a list of particular light, delicate flavor notes and aromas. And then you might be satisfied with it, and you might buy that for then on and be happy with it. And you say, well, I can get it for $11.99, heck. But then if you put it in taste challenges like today with old Overholt rye, it can't make it. Old Overholt is so much more full of flavor. I'm gonna read the comments, y'all. Just hold on. It's not even close. Charred oak, deep saturated wood, intense. It's not intense rye spice or intense rye pepperiness. It's just intense, like a bold flavor. It's like a lot of flavor, like a whole lot of love. And more body, maybe a longer finish. It's just more of everything. Now, if bold flavors, you don't like that. You say, oh, it's too much, too strong. Ugh. And I know people like that. I work with people like that. Every hot sauce is too hot. Any strong drink is too strong. If it ain't bland, they don't like it. Does that make them bad? It doesn't make them bad. That's what they like. I see the food they eat, and I think that's so bland. You think Louisiana, oh yeah, Louisiana, everybody eats spicy, fiery, hot food. No, that's what they say on TV. See, they really don't. Some people do. When I was a child 45 years ago, yeah, I would go eat at the high school or elementary school cafeteria, and the food was fiery hot. But all those ladies died in the late 80s or early 90s. And then the heat level started to die off. But I remember back then, you eat spaghetti and meatballs on Thursday, you'd be lit up. And all these northern kids, because we have so many northern students living down here because their parents worked at Marathon, usually their father, Marathon, Oil, Shell, oil or chemical, DuPont, Nalco, Air Liquide, Monsanto, just name any chemical company and they right here. And so probably most of the people that live here are not from here. Okay, but they would say, oh, the food's so hot. And they'd be from like Cedar Rapids, Iowa, They say, I can't eat it. But by May, you see, that was in September. But they'd be hungry, so they'd eat it, So by May, April and May of the school year, there was no going back. All these northern students who never tasted spicy food, they were like addicted. Now, once they got acclimated to the fiery hot spaghetti and meatballs, then it wasn't hot to them anymore. After it took 9 months, and then it was like they were just eating it like there's no turning back. So once you got used to this stuff, I think there would be no turning back. So if you're satisfied with Canadian Hunter rye and you like it and it's pleasant to you, just stick with it. I wouldn't experiment, because if you experiment, you're going to get ruined, as Archie Bunker would say. You're going to get ruined. You're not going to like it anymore because it's going to be too mild. It's not going to be bad. It doesn't have bad flavor. It's going to be too mild. So another loss for Canadian Hunter, but oh well. Oh well. Craft Beer Tastic says, I don't understand how these burger places can offer items for $1. You would think the moment an employee has to handle them, they would already be losing money on the sale. Well, because it's a loss, what they call a loss leader. They might lose money on it, but it's a hook to drag you in. In other words, they have a value menu. They have a rodeo burger for $1, and a value fries for $1.49. Okay. So you go over there and you say, I'm going to save money. That's all I'm going to get. The average person. But then they start looking at the menu and they're like, I gotta have more than that. So then they pay $9.59 for the value, the whatever meal. See, so they don't, it's just a loss. They call it a loss leader. Now, some people like me, they'll go and pay the actual dollar and the $1.49 for those two items and leave. So like the girl asked me over the intercom yesterday, is that all? I said, yep. Okay, so they don't really lose money because it's just a it's just bait to draw you in. The same thing with car dealerships. They'll say, oh, we got this Nissan Versa for $15,200, $15,200. And you say, oh, $15,200 for a brand new car, 2022. This month only. My daughter needs a car for college. So they go over there to the dealership. Well, you know what happens. They got one for that price, and it's white. It's got plain wheel covers, no kind of special stuff with it. Now, the college student ought to be glad that they're getting a free car. But what's the girl going to say? Or the boy, but the girl's going to say, well, the color's kind of plain. Oh, Daddy, look at this metallic orange Versa. It's got sport wheels. Oh, those are so pretty. Those 17-inch brushed aluminum wheels. Well, you know what happens. They so then they buy the one that's $23,000. And what happens to the $15,000 and $15,200 Nissan Versa? It sits on the lot, and it's a draw to draw people in. Now, does somebody eventually come along and buy it because they don't care about all the fancy stuff and they just want to spend as little amount of money as possible on a new vehicle? Yes. Do they make any money off the loss leader, the $15,200 Versa? No, it's probably they're selling it for cost. But it doesn't matter because they sold 20 others for much higher than they paid. And then they sold somebody a $1,200 extended warranty protection plan. And then they sold them a $600 dealer prep fee. So then they paid $27,000 after tax for the $23,000 car. When I bought my car last year, I went into the dealership. I wasn't hostile. I was very nice. They were not hostile. They were very nice. But we were talking business. I said, okay. We looked at the car. I said, that's a good price. And I drove the car. I said, it's nice, oh, yeah. He says, I said, let me ask you a question. I said, do you have a dealer prep fee? Oh, he said, yeah, but that's only $600. I said, what does that include? He showed me the paper. They etched the window and they got all this special wax they put on. I said, I don't pay for that. Oh, well, he said, all our customers pay the prep fee. I said, not this customer. I don't pay for that. And so the salesman said, well, you have to pay it. I said, well, that's okay. I'm not going to buy a car today. I was just looking anyway. No big deal. I said, but I appreciate you showing me the vehicle. It's very nice. I would like to have it, but that's okay. I'll wait. So he says, hold on a minute. Let me go talk to the manager. I'm going to see if they can make an exception. You know how that works. So they're over there talking. He comes back a few minutes later. He said, well, if you're willing to buy the car today, they could let that slide. And I said, kind of figured that. I said, all right. But you see, that's how that works, because nine times out of 10, probably 90 out of 100 times, the people pay that without any question. They don't challenge it. They don't take exception to it. They just take it. But I don't. I told them, I said, I'll pay tax. I'll pay the vehicle price. And I'll pay tax, title, and license. And that's it. You got to pay tax. You got to pay for the title, and you got to pay the licensing fee, to get your license. But that's it. So then the man says, well, let's look at your credit rating so we can run all that. He said, I'll show you around while we're running that. And he said, that shouldn't take too long. I said, no, that's not necessary. He said, no, we got to run that. I said, I'm going to pay cash for the vehicle. He said, pay cash. I said, I'm going to write a check for the full amount. I got the money in the bank. You can check that. Call the bank. They'll tell you. So then his eyes got kind of big. He said, he said, we could do that. We can do that. He said, but now we got to talk about the trade-in. I said, exactly. So let's work on that. So then it was a good experience. Except getting my money, because they owed me money. My vehicle was actually worth more than the new car, so they owed me $2,500. But I got the money. I was going to attack them if I didn't get the money. You know what I mean? Just kidding. But it worked out fine. But there's a way to buy cars that you got to have some sense about it. Got to have good sense about it. I don't guess most people have too much. Oh no way. Me and Dave's had a divorce. I'm not. Is it too strong for me? It's not too strong for me. That was not my exception to it. It's just that the heat factor in it was so powerful, the capsaicin factor, that it detracted from the flavor of the food. So I said, well, when I finish this bottle, I'm not buying it anymore. No knock against it. It's too one-sided. You know, it's not nuanced or balanced enough. I'm more like into hot sauces that have balance, like Crystal, Tabasco, even Louisiana Supreme, which is the greatest value on earth for hot sauce. Louisiana Supreme from St. Martinville, Louisiana, wonderfully balanced. Oh, and of course the Louisiana hot sauce that you see advertised at all the Tampa Bay Rays baseball games, for what I guess is very popular in Tampa, Florida, St. Petersburg, Florida. A wonderful product. Well, Hunter Rye, I like it. I would recommend it. I bought it, and I think you should buy it. But on the other hand, it has not won any taste challenges, and I have a feeling I know it will not win any. It won't. But there has to be a bottom, right? If you get every rye whiskey, there's got to be the worst one. But so what have I learned? The worst rye whiskey I ever tried is really good. That's a good sign. The worst rye whiskey I ever tried is really good. What about the worst bourbon? Well, that's probably like 10 High or Kentucky Gentleman. They're pretty shabby for bourbon. Are they bad products? No. Are they enjoyable? Yeah. Can I get a better deal than those two? Yeah. I'll give you one more. We got to get off of this. Kentucky Tavern. It's only aged 3 years. It's been on the market since 1903. It's a Buffalo Trace product. Get on the buffalotrace.com website. They never advertise it. You'll never hear about it. I can get a liter bottle. True story. I can buy it today and prove it. A liter bottle for $8.99. A 1 liter bottle for $8.99. That's the cheapest bourbon I ever bought. Straight Kentucky bourbon. Straight bourbon, not blended. You would be amazed with how good it is for $8.99. I'm not saying it's great. I'm saying for $8.99, you would be amazed for a liter. $8.99 a liter. You would be amazed. You would be amazed of the magic that Buffalo Trace works with that product. So if somebody asks me, somebody says, I want the cheapest straight bourbon in the world with a great price, I would immediately say Kentucky Tavern. Would be no hesitation. None. Plus, the bottle chimes. When you tap it with your fingernail, it chimes like a chime. Wind chime. Beautiful product. My problem with buying, here's Craft Beer Tested. My problem with buying a new car is that my old car usually dropped a transmission or whatever, and it suddenly becomes an impulse purchase under emergency condition. Yeah, the worst time to buy a new car is when you have to. Because then you got to buy it, right? What you going to do, not drive? So, and the car dealers know that. And if I owned a car dealership, I would know that. It would be kind of like, well, sounds like you got a problem. It's like my daughter. Well, yeah, her transmission kept going out. And they were playing games. I know they were playing games. To me, it was like a minor problem. But they were making it sound like it was the end of the world. So she was getting paranoid. But see, then they got you. They got you because your car is screwed up. The best time to buy a new car is when you don't need it. Remember this. Best time to buy a new car is when you don't need it and when you got the cash on hand. Now, I don't know how many buyers have cash on hand, probably 1%. But because then you have the upper hand. You got the advantage, and you don't have to be hostile or have a nasty attitude when you go to the dealership. You can be very pleasant. And those dealers love cash money, believe me. Their day brightens up. Because, see, it's a real risk to them when they do the credit rating. Because they might spend an hour and a half showing you the vehicle. Then they run your credit rating. Half these people in there looking at cars can't afford it. There's no way they're going to get any financing for it. So they like, it's like, why are you looking at this Lexus? You can't buy it. Well, I'm going to get my daddy to co-sign for it. Your daddy's not co-sign. So then it's this long, drawn-out situation where the people can't buy the vehicle. That happens a lot. But when you say, I got the cash on hand and I'll write the check right now, everything's happy because they're getting their money. They get, the salesman, he's going to get a commission. He's getting his money. It's not, I'm going to wait an hour and a half for them to run a credit rating and go through all of this rigmarole and the guy can't buy the vehicle. Or the girl can't buy the vehicle. So would they rather if you finance? Ford Credit would rather if you finance. Ford Credit or Chrysler Credit because they're going to make interest rate money off of you. The dealership makes no money off of that. Or well, they might get an incentive, a holdback incentive from the corporate, I guess. But I think they rather just get the money and be done. I know I would. Not to mention, some people buy a car on credit and they can't make the payments, and then they got to go repo it. That happens quite a bit. They got to send a repo man out to go get the car. And you laying in bed at 2 a.m, you hear your car start up and drive off, or your truck. You laying in bed, you hear your Chevrolet Silverado start up. It's like, how did my Chevrolet Silverado start up? Then you call the cops. Somebody stole my truck. They track them down to the dealership. The dealership said, we didn't steal this truck. It's our truck. They got the title. They got the title. They own the truck. Till you pay it off, you don't own it. Sorry. Hate to bust your bubble. All right. Thanks for watching this video production.